My name is Emma Brooks. I was 36 years old when my marriage started falling apart, although I didn't realize it at the time. Looking back now, the warning signs had been there for years. I just kept ignoring them because I loved my husband and wanted our marriage to work. I worked as a nurse practitioner at a hospital in Nashville, Tennessee. The hours were long and exhausting, but I loved helping people. Most weeks I worked 3 or 4 night shifts, which meant I spent a lot of time tired and running on coffee. Even with my busy schedule, I still handled most things at home. I paid the bills, scheduled appointments, managed our budget, and took care of almost everything. My husband, Jason Reed, worked in sales. He was charming, friendly, and knew how to make people like him. When we first met, I thought I had found the perfect man. He remembered small details about me and always knew what to say. But over time, I learned that charm can sometimes hide selfish behavior. The house we lived in had been a gift from my parents. Years before my wedding, they spent nearly 20 years saving enough money to buy it. They worked hard their entire lives and wanted me to have a secure future. My father always told me to protect what belonged to me. When Jason and I got married, he moved into the house. At first everything seemed fine. Then his mother, Patricia Reed, started becoming involved in every part of our lives. She called Jason several times every day. Every decision somehow involved her opinion. Soon Patricia began visiting every weekend. Then she started staying longer. She would rearrange furniture, criticize decorations, and act like she had equal authority in my home. Whenever I complained, Jason defended her. "She's just trying to help," he always said. One day I came home after a long shift and discovered that Patricia had replaced the curtains in my living room. They were curtains my mother and I had chosen together years earlier. Patricia smiled proudly and said she thought her choice looked better. That was the moment I realized she no longer saw herself as a guest. She saw herself as an owner. Her daughter Megan wasn't much better. She would stop by without notice, help herself to food, and spend hours in the house. She acted like every room belonged to her. One afternoon I came home and found Megan sitting in my office using my desk and computer space. When I told Jason that it wasn't acceptable, he became angry and accused me of overreacting. For the first time in our marriage, I started feeling like a stranger in my own home. A few weeks later, I noticed Patricia had practically moved into our guest room. New blankets, family photos, clothes hanging in the closet, and personal items covered every surface. When I confronted Jason, he shrugged. "It's just easier for Mom." I looked around the room and realized something important. Nobody had asked for my permission. Not Jason. Not Patricia. Not Megan. They had simply decided. "How did you get in?" Patricia smiled. "Jason gave me a key." My stomach dropped. Jason had given his mother a key to my house without telling me. That evening I confronted him. Instead of apologizing, he became defensive. "It's not a big deal, Emma. She's family." "Family doesn't mean ownership," I replied. For the first time, Jason looked genuinely angry. We argued for nearly an hour. When the argument ended, I called a locksmith and changed every lock on the property. Patricia was furious when she discovered her key no longer worked. Jason was even angrier. For several days he barely spoke to me. Then something else changed. Jason stopped contributing money to our shared account. At first I thought it was a mistake. Maybe a payroll issue. Maybe a banking error. But after checking several months of statements, I realized his transfers had stopped completely. Thousands of dollars were missing. I sat at my kitchen table one evening reviewing every transaction. That was when I noticed a company name I had never seen before. Reed Property Solutions. The account had paid thousands of dollars to this company over several months. Roof repairs. Floor repairs. Painting. Electrical work. The problem was simple. None of those repairs had happened. The roof was the same. The floors were the same. Everything in the house looked exactly as it always had. Curious, I searched for the company online. The business had no website. No reviews. No office. No employees. But it did have one thing. The business registration listed Jason Reed as the owner. My hand started shaking. I kept digging. The more I searched, the worse it became. The company existed only on paper. There were invoices for work that never happened and payments that disappeared from our shared account. The money had gone somewhere, but I didn't know where. For the next several days I acted normal. I cooked dinner. I asked Jason about work. I pretended everything was fine. Meanwhile, I quietly gathered documents. Bank statements. Invoices. Business records. Anything I could find. Then one afternoon, while Jason was away on a business trip, I discovered something that changed everything. Inside a locked desk drawer, I found financial documents connected to Reed Property Solutions. There was also a savings account statement. The account belonged to Patricia Reed. I stared at the balance. More than $20,000. As I reviewed the deposits, my heart sank. Every payment matched the missing money from our joint account. Every fake invoice. Every fake repair. Every dollar. Jason had created a fake company and transferred our money to his mother's account. I sat there for several minutes unable to move. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and angry all at once. This wasn't about a house anymore. This wasn't about keys. This wasn't about boundaries. This was theft. For the first time since my marriage began, I stopped thinking about saving relationship. Instead, I started thinking about protecting myself. The next morning I scheduled an appointment with a divorce attorney. I carried every document with me. When the attorney finished reviewing everything, she looked directly at me. "Emma," she said calmly, "your house is protected. The paperwork is clear. But what your husband did with this money is very serious." I nodded quietly. Then she asked the question that changed my future. "Do you want to save this marriage, or do you want to protect your life?" For a long moment, I didn't answer. Then I looked down at the stack of documents and finally accepted the truth. My marriage had already ended. I just hadn't admitted it yet. My lawyer spent the next 3 weeks gathering every piece of evidence we needed. During that time, I acted as if nothing had changed. I went to work, cooked dinner, and listened to Jason talk about his day. He believed I had finally accepted the situation. Patricia continued visiting the house and Megan stopped by whenever she wanted. They were already acting as though the house belonged to their family. What none of them knew was that every bank statement, every transfer, and every document connected to the fake company had already been reviewed by a forensic accountant. The evidence was overwhelming. More than $20,000 had been taken from our shared account and quietly transferred through Jason's company into Patricia's savings account. The truth was documented, organized, and ready. One Thursday evening Jason sat across from me at the kitchen table and announced that Patricia's apartment lease would end soon. He spoke confidently, as if the decision had already been made. He explained that his mother would move into the house permanently because it was the best solution for everyone. I listened carefully and allowed him to finish. Then I surprised him by agreeing to discuss the matter during a family dinner. Jason smiled immediately. He thought he had finally won. He called Patricia that night, and by the next morning everyone had been invited. My parents agreed to attend without asking many questions. They trusted me, and they knew I would not ask for their help unless something serious was happening. Saturday evening arrived. The dining room was beautifully prepared. The table was set, dinner was ready, and everyone seemed excited except me. Patricia arrived first with a large smile on her face. Megan came shortly afterward and immediately started talking about how wonderful it would be when Patricia officially lived there. My parents arrived quietly and took their seats. Throughout dinner, Jason acted happier than he had been in months. He joked, laughed, and spoke about future plans. I remained calm and waited patiently. After dessert, Jason stood up and tapped his glass. The room became silent. With a confident smile, he announced that Patricia would soon be moving into the house permanently and that the family would finally be together under one roof. Patricia looked emotional. Megan started clapping. Then Jason turned toward me expecting support. Instead, I stood up, walked to a nearby chair, and picked up a folder filled with documents. The smile slowly disappeared from his face. I calmly explained that the house belonged only to me. I showed everyone the property documents and the gift paperwork my parents had signed years before my wedding. My father confirmed every detail. Then I opened the forensic report. One by one, I explained the fake company, the false invoices, and the missing money. I showed the transfers, the account statements, and the evidence connecting everything together. The room became completely silent. Patricia's face lost all color. Megan looked confused. Jason tried to interrupt several times, but the documents spoke louder than anything he could say. When I finally revealed that the money had ended up in Patricia's account, nobody at the table could deny the truth. Jason became angry and accused me of spying on him. I reminded him that the money came from our shared account and that I had every legal right to review the transactions. My mother sat quietly while my father stared directly at Jason. For the first time since I had known him, Jason had no explanation. Then I told everyone about the divorce papers. The announcement shocked the room. Jason immediately started promising that we could fix everything, but I had already made my decision. Trust once broken is difficult to repair, and some betrayals are too large to ignore. I explained that this was no longer about money. It was about years of disrespect, manipulation, and dishonesty. Patricia tried to defend herself, but even she knew the evidence was overwhelming. That night ended with arguments, tears, and accusations. Eventually Jason, Patricia, and Megan left the house together. The moment the front door closed behind them, the entire house felt different. For the first time in years, it felt peaceful. My parents stayed with me for another hour. We talked quietly and cleaned the table together. Before leaving, my father looked around the house and smiled. He told me he was proud that I had protected what belonged to me. Those words meant more than he realized. The divorce process took several months, but the outcome was exactly what my attorney predicted. The house remained mine. Jason was ordered to repay a significant portion of the missing money, and the debt connected to his fake company became his responsibility alone. When everything was finally finished, I stood alone in my living room one evening and realized something important. I had spent years trying to keep peace by sacrificing my own boundaries. The moment I stopped doing that, my life became better. Over the following months, I redecorated the house exactly the way I wanted. The old curtains were replaced with new ones chosen by me. The guest room became a home office. The locks were changed. The smart lock codes were reset. Every room finally felt like my own again. On a warm spring afternoon, I planted flowers near the front porch and sat outside with a cup of coffee. For the first time in a very long time, I wasn't worried about who might walk through the front door without permission. The house was quiet, peaceful, and safe. It was still the same house my parents had worked 20 years to give me, but now it felt even more valuable because I had fought to keep it. Sometimes protecting your future means walking away from people who never respected it. And looking back now, that was the best decision I ever made.